LeBron James speaks on Lakers' recent trades. The Lakers have made one major move after another, and now LeBron James is finally speaking out. From his reaction to the team's recent trades to what he really thinks about the Lakers' future, LeBron is making his feelings known, and not everyone likes what he had to say. Let's get into it. It was late. LeBron James was at dinner in New York after a Lakers win over the Knicks, and his phone lit up with something that at first he genuinely believed couldn't be real. ESPN's Shams Charania had just detonated the biggest trade bomb in recent NBA memory. Anthony Davis, LeBron's closest friend on the roster, his co-star of nearly 6 seasons, the man he won a championship with in 2020, was gone. Traded to Dallas, and coming back, Luka Doncic. 25 years old, the best young player on the planet. James initially believed the 3-team trade among the Lakers, Dallas Mavericks, and Utah Jazz was a hoax, and it took days before the reality of not having Davis by his side finally started to set in. That's how surreal this was, not just to fans scrolling through Twitter at midnight, not just to Mavericks fans watching their franchise player get ripped away without a single trade request, but to LeBron himself, sitting somewhere in Manhattan, staring at his phone and typing those 3 letters. According to NBA journalist Yaron Weitzman's book, A Hollywood Ending, The Dreams and Drama of the LeBron Lakers, James had a short response to the deal, writing WTF in the players' group chat. 3 letters for a man who has given post-game speeches, motivational lectures, and championship declarations with the kind of eloquence that fills highlight reels. All he had in that moment was 3 letters. And honestly, that landed harder than any speech could have. The Luka Doncic-Anthony Davis trade went down on the night of February 1, 2025, which saw Doncic traded from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis in a 3-team deal facilitated by the Utah Jazz. It was the first time in NBA history that 2 reigning All-NBA team players were traded for each other mid-season. Read that again. 2 reigning All-NBA players mid-season for each other. The NBA had never seen anything like it, not once in its entire history. It's considered one of the most unexpected and lopsided trades in NBA history, even though the Mavericks still received an All-NBA player, as Doncic is perceived as a generational player and is almost 6 years younger than Davis. And LeBron, the one man in that Lakers locker room with more experience navigating franchise earthquakes than anyone alive, didn't see it coming. He had no heads up. No phone call from Rob Pelinka. No whisper from the front office. Nothing. James detailed his late-night dinner after the win at the New York Knicks when he first heard the news. The Lakers were sending out Davis, Max Christie, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and a future first-round pick to bring in Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. The unprecedented swap initially caught him off guard, but he could understand the motivation for the Lakers. It was shocking when I heard the news. But at the end of the day, I understand the business of basketball, he said, but I didn't make the decision. That last sentence, 4 words, quiet, but loaded, because I didn't make the decision coming from LeBron James is not a throwaway line. This is a man who has been the gravitational center of every franchise conversation for 22 years. Trades have been made for him. Teams have been restructured around him. GMs have been hired and fired based on whether they could keep him happy. The idea that a decision of this magnitude, a decision that directly reshapes his final chapter, happened without him, that's a different kind of shock entirely. James said he spent 2 days in disbelief after the Los Angeles Lakers traded away Anthony Davis, his close friend and teammate for 5.5 years. The top scorer in NBA history was finally coming to grips with the idea of forming a new partnership with Luka Doncic, who also holds a special place in James's esteem. 2 days, not 2 hours. 2 full days of sitting with something that felt like the floor had shifted beneath him. You don't process a move like that in an afternoon. You process it in the quiet, in the conversations you don't make public, in the moments where you're just staring at the ceiling wondering what comes next. Austin Reeves said, "The last couple of days has been tough for me. I feel like I had an empty pit in my stomach, just because in the last 4 years with AD, 3 years with Max, you create real relationships and bonds. And out of nowhere, they're on a different team. So it wasn't just LeBron who felt the ground shake. The whole locker room felt it. But LeBron, as he always does, was the one who had to decide what kind of energy to bring when the cameras came back on. And when he finally stepped in front of those cameras at Intuit Dome, after the Lakers' blowout win over the Clippers, the first game with Doncic watching from the bench, LeBron chose his words with precision. He didn't complain. He didn't throw the front office under the bus. He didn't make it about himself. He did something very LeBron. He made it about Luka. Luka has been my favorite player in the NBA for a while now, James said. I've always just tried to play the game the right way and inspire the next generation, and Luka happens to be one of them, and now we're teammates. Think about how that lands. His favorite player in the league is now on his team. LeBron didn't spin it, he just said it straight. And whether that was genuine emotion or seasoned media handling, probably both. It worked. The basketball world exhaled a little. But then he said something else, something that on the surface sounded like a show of commitment. But underneath it, there was a quiet warning. If I had concerns about it, I'd waive my no-trade clause and get up out of here, James said. I'm here right now. I'm here right now. I'm committed to the Lakers organization. As the leader of the team, as one of the captains of the team, it's my job to make it as seamless as possible. He said it twice. I'm here right now. Not I'm here. Not I'm committed forever. Right now. Present tense. His choice, because he had a no-trade clause that could have sent him anywhere he wanted. That caveat was the real headline. Not the praise of Luka. Not the business of basketball line. It was the quiet reminder that LeBron James stays because LeBron James decides to stay. That's the power dynamic that has defined his entire career. And in one post-game press conference, surrounded by purple and gold bunting and flashing cameras, he let the Lakers organization know without once raising his voice exactly where the leverage lived. During an appearance on the Pat McAfee show, James explained that he empathized with Doncic after he was caught off guard by being shipped away. I can't put myself in his shoes because I've never been traded before, James said. But I can have a sense and be a human being to know. You commit to a franchise for 7 years and you feel like this is the place I'm gonna be. This is my comfort. And then out of nowhere, bam, you just get traded. I don't give a damn where you're going. It doesn't matter who you're pairing with. That's a shock to your system. He was talking about Luka, but he was also talking about himself. Because here's the thing. LeBron has never been traded in his entire career. Not once. Every move he's made, Cleveland to Miami, Miami back to Cleveland, Cleveland to Los Angeles, has been on his terms. His choice, his contract decisions, his free agency. The idea of being traded without consent, without a heads up, without being part of the conversation. That violates something fundamental to how LeBron operates. He didn't experience that directly with this deal, but he felt the ghost of it. The front office made a seismic call without looping him in. In addition to praising his new running mate, James paid homage to former Lakers big man Anthony Davis. I lost a dear friend, a great friend, and a champion duo with AD. Miss him to death, James said. But we were able to gain Luka magic, grief and gratitude in the same breath. That's a line you write when you've had 2 days to sit alone and figure out how you feel about something that's already done and can't be undone. He mourned Davis. Then he moved forward. The trade was done. The shock had settled. But the real story, the one that would unravel slowly across the next 16 months, was just getting started. Because the Doncic trade didn't just reshuffle the roster. It quietly started a clock. A countdown to a reckoning between LeBron James and the franchise he'd called home for 8 years. And the Lakers front office, whether they realized it or not, had already lit the fuse. Here's something the Doncic trade did that doesn't get talked about enough. It didn't just bring a 25-year-old superstar to Los Angeles. It announced, in the loudest possible terms, that the Lakers had made a generational decision. They weren't trying to squeeze one more ring out of the LeBron era. They were installing a new foundation, a franchise pillar who would be in his prime for the next decade. And LeBron James, 40 years old, in the final chapter of a career that has rewritten every record book, was now orbiting that foundation instead of anchoring it. The Lakers' future, previously considered murky, was changed to allow the establishment of a long-term contender built around Doncic, whilst the Mavericks' title window was effectively ended due to the trade and injury to Kyrie Irving, as well as recurring injury problems with Davis, resulting in a transition into a rebuild around Cooper Flag. So there it is. The Lakers' long-term contender was being built around Luka. That was the plan. That was the stated direction. And if you're LeBron James reading that from the outside, you already know what it means for you. Journalists called the transaction one of the most unexpected trades in NBA and American sports history, with many media members, fans, and NBA players criticizing it and expressing shock, as Doncic had not even requested a trade and was an all-NBA player in his prime. The overwhelming consensus was that the Lakers won the trade. They won the trade. Yes, but every winning move has a cost. And in this case, part of that cost, the quiet, unacknowledged cost, was the signal it sent to LeBron about his role in the Lakers' future. Let's talk about what the Lakers actually got with the Doncic deal, because the roster context matters enormously for understanding everything that followed. The trade itself was just the beginning around Doncic. The Lakers still needed to build a functional roster, and that roster-building process happening in real time around and alongside LeBron is where the real tension started to surface. The Los Angeles Lakers knew precisely what they needed to upgrade the roster. Add a quality wing defender or two. Unfortunately, they owned only one tradable first-round pick, which reportedly lacked value around the league, and a host of expiring contracts that were tough to move. So despite pulling off what looked on paper like a franchise-transforming win, the Lakers found themselves in an uncomfortable position. They had their centerpiece, but they were cash-strapped and pick-poor when it came to filling in the gaps around him. The most difficult contract to move was LeBron James's. Former NBA All-Star Jeff Teague strongly believed that James, who was on an expiring salary of $52.6 million, impeded the Lakers' ability to improve the roster around their high-scoring backcourt duo of Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. $52.6 million is an enormous number on a roster that's trying to add shooting, size, and defensive versatility. That's not an indictment of LeBron the player, it's just arithmetic. And the arithmetic was making front office life extremely difficult. Teague said on the Club 520 podcast, they can't get anybody defensively because Bron takes up a lot of money. Now, Teague wasn't the only one making this observation. It was the kind of conversation happening in front offices, on sports radio, and in every barbershop with a television. And somewhere in Los Angeles, LeBron James and his team were hearing it too. You can't miss it when the conversation is that loud. Meanwhile, the team they'd assembled around Doncic and LeBron had real defensive problems. The roster as constructed had glaring defensive deficiencies that projected to thwart any realistic hopes of the Lakers competing for an NBA championship. Doncic, Reeves, and James, at 41 years old, were all below average defenders, and the Lakers entered games ranked 25th in the league in defensive rating. 25th. Out of 30 teams, that's not a contender's defense. That's a team with a beautiful offensive ceiling and a floor that keeps caving in when it matters most. The Lakers were trying to thread an almost impossible needle, maximize now with LeBron and Luka, while simultaneously building for a future that, structurally, might not include LeBron at all, and the moves they made, or in many cases couldn't make, during the season reflected exactly how tangled that needle had become. One of the moves they did manage, a window into their thinking and their trade capital, was sending Gabe Vincent and a future second-round pick to the Atlanta Hawks for Luke Kennard. The Lakers traded Gabe Vincent and a 2032 second-round draft pick to the Atlanta Hawks for Luke Kennard, also receiving a trade exception in the process. This was not a seismic move. It wasn't the kind of deal that shifts playoff projections or makes opposing coaches lose sleep. But it was telling. It told you what the Lakers had to work with, a bag of expiring contracts and second-round picks, and what they were willing to do with it. The bigger conversations were happening around LeBron himself, because the Lakers weren't expected to trade James ahead of the NBA trade deadline. ESPN's Dave McMenamin reported. The news broke as James and the Lakers faced the Nets in Brooklyn, a game they won 125-109. No trade, he stayed. But the fact that it was being reported, that there was even a question that required answering, says everything about the atmosphere inside and around this franchise. It was unclear from reporting whether it was the Lakers or James, or both, who had decided to move forward together. James had a no-trade clause and could veto a trade to any team. That no-trade clause was the straw that held the whole thing together. And it kept coming up in every trade rumor, in every ESPN segment, in every conversation about what this roster could or couldn't become. LeBron's clause was both his greatest protection and the most complicated variable. In any roster puzzle the Lakers tried to solve. Asked in January if he wanted to finish the season with the Lakers, James responded, "I'm good. Everybody's crazy." Short, deflecting, and yet somehow still the most quoted line of the month, because that's how LeBron works. He doesn't have to say 1,000 words to set the whole basketball world on fire. 3 words. I'm good, everybody's crazy. And every debate show from First Take to the Pat McAfee show had its content lined up for the week. The front office, meanwhile, was trying to figure out its next move. And the next big move didn't just involve roster logistics. It involved a promise they had made. A promise they had made to Luka Doncic on the night they brought him to Los Angeles. Doncic's camp had been told, summer of 26. We'll show you in the summer of 26, as the Lakers front office made a promise about what the roster would look like once they had the cap flexibility they needed. Summer 2026. That was the timeline. That was when the real building was supposed to begin. But something or someone had complicated that timeline in ways nobody fully anticipated. And understanding that complication means understanding the season LeBron James just had. Because it wasn't a quiet fade into the background season, not even close. James, 41, completed his 23rd NBA season, averaging 20.9 points per game while helping the Lakers reach the Western Conference semifinals. Despite injuries to Doncic and Austin Reeves late in the season, James carried the Lakers through the final weeks of the regular season and into the playoffs, before Oklahoma City eliminated Los Angeles in 4 games. Read that again, 20.9 points per game at 41 years old, carrying his team deep into the season with his 2 biggest co-stars sidelined. This wasn't a waving the white flag retirement tour. This was LeBron James reminding the basketball world and the Lakers front office that he isn't done. LeBron James was 41 years old in the final year of his contract and currently carrying the Los Angeles Lakers to a 3-0 first-round playoff lead against the Houston Rockets without Luka Doncic or Austin Reeves, carrying them to the brink of a sweep without his 2 best teammates, almost single-handedly. This was the performance that reframed every conversation about his future, because you can't watch that and tell the story of LeBron as a declining veteran who's in the way. That story doesn't hold up against the highlight reel, and therein lies the beautiful, complicated tension at the heart of everything the Lakers are navigating. They made a trade to build for the future, but the supposed past, the guy who was supposed to gracefully step aside, is still playing like the present. That's not a problem you game plan around, that's a dilemma. For most of the 2025-26 season, everything looked fine from the outside. LeBron was performing. Luka was performing. Austin Reeves had grown into a legitimate co-star, locking down a massive extension and establishing himself as the kind of two-way high IQ wing that contenders are built around. The Lakers were winning games, competing in the West, making noise. But underneath all of that, something was simmering. Something that didn't make press releases or official statements. It lived in the locker room, in training facility hallways, in the private conversations between agents and executives. The Los Angeles Lakers entered the offseason facing major questions around LeBron James's future after their second-round playoff sweep against the Oklahoma City Thunder. ESPN's Dave McMenamin reported that tensions had built internally. During the 2025-26 season, after the Lakers traded for Luka Doncic and shifted more of the franchise focus toward the younger star. Tensions, internal ones, the kind that professional athletes and their representatives are very good at keeping quiet until the timing is right. And the timing, as it turned out, came right after the playoffs ended. This wasn't surprising to anyone who understood how franchise transitions actually work. When you trade for a 25-year-old cornerstone, and you're still paying your 41-year-old legend more than $50 million a year, the math will eventually create friction. Not because either party is wrong, just because the numbers and the logic of competitive windows pull in different directions. The moment the friction became visible happened during a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, a win for the Lakers that should have been a pure celebration. According to McMenamin, frustration between James and the organization surfaced during the win over the Cavaliers. The victory marked the 229th combined regular season and playoff win of James's career, moving him past Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most wins in NBA history. So this wasn't a loss, it wasn't a blowout embarrassment. It was a record-breaking win, the kind of night that should have generated nothing but good feelings. And yet, inside the organization, something cracked a little. The nature of the frustration wasn't immediately spelled out publicly, but it was there. And people inside that locker room knew it. Then came the injuries. Reeves strained his oblique muscle against Oklahoma City, while Doncic suffered a hamstring injury in the same game that sidelined him for the remainder of the playoffs. James then returned to a larger offensive role and helped the Lakers defeat the Houston Rockets in the first round before being swept by the Thunder. So LeBron's final chapter of the season looked like this. Luka gone, Reeves gone, just him and whatever the Lakers had left, trying to claw through the Western Conference playoffs. He won 1 series without them. Then Oklahoma City took 4 straight. And when the dust settled, after the locker room cleanouts and the quiet exits and the season-ending handshakes, LeBron said something that landed quietly but hit hard. "I don't know what the future holds for me, obviously," James told reporters. "That's not a man who's settled. That's not a man who's committed to one outcome. That's a man who is deliberately leaving the door open and doing it in public, where the Lakers front office can hear him." Now consider the full picture from LeBron's perspective. He didn't ask for the trade that brought Luka in. He didn't know it was happening. He wasn't consulted. Then, across the season that followed, the organizational weight of the franchise gradually but unmistakably shifted toward the younger star. That's not wrong. That's how franchise transitions are supposed to work, but it's a complicated thing to live through when you're still the one carrying the team. On nights when Luka can't, when you're still the one putting up 20 points a game at 41, when you're still, by any reasonable measure, one of the best players on your own team. A source close to James told ESPN, LeBron was the last man standing. That phrase, that specific phrasing, the last man standing, wasn't accidental. It was a message, delivered through the media, wrapped in the language of quiet frustration. It said, when everything else broke down, when the franchise piece the whole plan is built around got hurt, it was still LeBron holding things together, and the organization needs to remember that. The public response from both sides was careful, measured, James told ESPN, following the Game 4 loss to Oklahoma City. "There's no static from me." Pelinka also praised James during the Lakers' exit interviews. "We probably haven't seen a player that has honored the game to the extent that he's honored the game," Pelinka said. "He's given so much to his teammates, to this organization." Gracious words, professional words, the kind of words two parties use when they want to preserve a relationship, while also quietly signaling that the next conversation is going to be a serious one. That next conversation was coming fast, because the summer of 2026, the one Luka's camp had been told would be the summer where the Lakers got serious about building, had arrived. And the first question on everyone's lips was, does that building happen with LeBron or without him? When the Lakers made the promise to Doncic about the summer of 26, they must have assumed that LeBron James would be out of the Lakers' picture by now. However, that didn't look to be the case, which diminished LA's cap space substantially. Austin Reeves' max salary future was also not necessarily guaranteed back in February 2025. When the Lakers acquired Doncic, the arithmetic had changed. LeBron opting back in, Reeves landing a massive extension. Two huge financial commitments that reshaped what the Lakers could actually do. In the summer they'd been pointing toward. LeBron's ridiculous longevity and enduring excellence was the main force that drove a wedge into the Lakers' 2026 plans. Plans that were designed to keep Luka happy. Read that carefully. His excellence, not his age, not his decline. His excellence is the complicating factor. Because if he were done, if the performances had fallen off, the decision would be easy. You gracefully celebrate the legacy. You let the contract expire. You move forward. But LeBron won't cooperate with that narrative. He keeps being too good, and Luka's camp had noticed. The promise that had been made, summer of 26 will show you, was now running into the reality of a cap sheet that LeBron's continued presence had reshaped. According to a source close to Doncic speaking to ESPN's Dave McMenamin, Luka wants to be a championship team yesterday. Yesterday. Not next year. Not someday. Yesterday. That's the impatience of a 26-year-old superstar who came to Los Angeles with the understanding that the rebuild was already done. And what was coming next was the serious championship chase. Rich Paul told ESPN's Shams Charania, LeBron wants to compete for a championship. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. Both sides want championships. Both sides want to compete. The problem is that building for the future and a realistic chance of winning it all right now are sometimes two different things. And a 41-year-old free agent with $52 million in annual salary sits squarely at the intersection of that tension. The Lakers had a promise to keep to Luka. They had a legend to honor in LeBron. And they had a summer to figure it all out, which meant the most interesting conversations of the offseason were just getting started. There is a pattern in how LeBron James communicates publicly that every NBA front office has learned over the last 2 decades to read very carefully. He rarely says the most important thing directly. He says something adjacent to it, Something that sounds like a non-story, until you sit with it for 24 hours and suddenly realize it's the only story. When he said, "I'm here right now" after the Doncic trade, that was a pattern. When he talked about Luka's trade being a shock to the system in a way that sounded like personal experience, that was a pattern. And when he stopped talking, when he went silent and let his agent do the talking, that was the loudest version of the pattern yet. Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul addressed the media speculation about his top client LeBron James's future with the Lakers. Speaking on SiriusXM NBA radio, Paul told Frank Isola that it's not his or James's job to rebut or clarify things. The translation of that in the language of NBA business: we're not going to play defense. We don't need to. The market will speak for itself. And the market, per Paul's statement to Shams Charania, the one that set the whole league on fire, was very clear about what LeBron needed. Paul told Charania, LeBron wants to compete for a championship. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. We are very appreciative of the partnership that we've had for 8 years with Jeanie and Rob, and consider the Lakers as a critical part of his career. Paul added that James will closely monitor the Lakers' offseason. We do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. He wants to make every season he has left count. And the Lakers understand that, are supportive, and want what's best for him. Break that statement down. Building for the future, acknowledging the post-LeBron era is a real thing. Values a realistic chance of winning it all, suggesting that if the Lakers aren't that, there are other options. Every season he has left, reminding the audience, including the Lakers ownership, that there are only a few of those left. Every line in that statement is doing work. This is not a casual summer press release. This is an opening bid. The response from the rest of the NBA came almost immediately. Trade rumors began to circulate, with 4 teams reaching out to Paul to inquire about James's availability. ESPN's Dave McMenamin reported in the aftermath. 4 teams, immediately, within the window of that single statement landing in the news cycle. 4 franchises were already making phone calls. That's the power of LeBron James' name in the open market. You don't even have to officially put him up for trade. You just have to issue a statement that sounds ambiguous enough, and the phones start ringing. According to ESPN, league personnel identified the Cleveland Cavaliers, Golden State Warriors, New York Knicks, Denver Nuggets, and LA Clippers as possible destinations if James decides not to remain in Los Angeles. 5 teams. Cleveland, where it all started, and where he won a championship. Golden State, where Steph Curry is trying to assemble one more contender. New York, the market that has been chasing LeBron for 2 decades. Denver, a team built to win now. The Clippers, his own city, a different building. Every single one of those destinations had a story attached to it that fans and media would devour. Chris Haynes, reporting for NBA TV, said that Paul told him, "There has been no trade discussions. There have been no trade talks with the Lakers." Wait, read that carefully. Not there have been no conversations with other teams. The clarification was specifically no trade discussions with the Lakers. So Paul wasn't shutting down the trade talk broadly. He was narrowing the frame, no talks with the Lakers, which is another way of saying the conversation hasn't started yet. And when it does, it might not be about LeBron staying. According to Haynes, Paul said James understands. The Lakers are now building around the 26-year-old Doncic, but that he also wants them to maximize and prioritize LeBron's timeline. Maximize and prioritize LeBron's timeline in a sentence. That's the entire negotiating position. LeBron understands the Doncic era. He's not fighting it, but he wants the franchise to acknowledge that his timeline, which keeps all the options open, which keeps the leverage exactly where LeBron wants it. The NBA offseason had been officially taken hostage by a 41-year-old man who typed WTF into a group chat 16 months ago and has been quietly controlling the narrative ever since. Every conversation about LeBron James's next move eventually circles back to one word: Cleveland. It keeps coming up because it makes emotional sense, because it makes basketball sense at certain angles, and because Brian Windhorst, the ESPN reporter who has covered LeBron longer than almost anyone alive, keeps pointing in that direction. Multiple credible reporters, including ESPN's Brian Windhorst, have strongly linked him to the Cleveland Cavaliers, with some going so far as to say there is a strong chance James returns to Cleveland to close out his career if he is willing to accept a pay cut. A third stint in Cleveland. Think about what that story looks like. LeBron James coming home for a final time to the city where he delivered a championship that people literally cried over in the streets. The full circle. The complete arc. It's the kind of narrative that doesn't need a publicist, it sells itself. And the Cavaliers, for their part, were quietly positioning themselves as a destination worth considering. The Lakers were very open to the possibility of one sign-and-trade scenario. That would involve sending James to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Brian Windhorst of ESPN reported during a radio appearance. Very open, not entertaining offers, not considering it as a last resort. Very open, which tells you everything about where the Lakers' head is at heading into this summer. They're not trying to build a wall around LeBron James. They're trying to figure out how to move this piece in a way that helps both sides. The Lakers were very open to the possibility of a sign-and-trade with the Cavaliers. That would involve sending James to Cleveland. Windhorst added that the Lakers were eyeing the possibility of acquiring Cavaliers center Jarrett Allen in such a move, even adding that the Lakers would kill to get Allen. Jarrett Allen, young, athletic, elite shot blocker, proven pick-and-roll partner, exactly the kind of center the Lakers have been desperately hunting. Since the day they lost Anthony Davis, this isn't just a retirement package for LeBron. This is a transaction the Lakers could genuinely get excited about. James, at 41, is an unrestricted free agent this offseason. While that makes him free to sign with any team he chooses, James would greatly benefit from a sign-and-trade, since it could get him the most amount of money from a team that otherwise might not have the financial flexibility to give him a large contract outright. The Cavaliers already had the NBA's highest overall payroll on their books. For 2026-27, estimated at $218.1 million. The money side of this is complicated. Cleveland is a capped-out franchise. They can't just write LeBron a check. The only realistic path to a financially meaningful deal is a sign-and-trade, and for that, the Lakers have to be willing participants, which per Windhorst, they are. And the Cavaliers had their own motivation to think through this carefully. Cleveland lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the New York Knicks this past season, and may need to do something far more dramatic than simply running it back in order to realistically compete for an NBA title. The possibility of a third stint by James with the Cavaliers had been rumored for several months, and it may all depend on whether or not Cleveland actually wants him back. Does Cleveland want him? That's the question that doesn't always get asked in these conversations. The story is usually framed as LeBron deciding whether to go back, but the Cavaliers have built something real in their own right. They made the Eastern Conference Finals. They have a young, hungry core. A third stint for LeBron isn't automatically a slam dunk for their locker room chemistry or their identity. ESPN's Brian Windhorst noted, "Trust me, those guys asked LeBron what he was planning on doing, and LeBron did not tell them. Even at the Summer League, even surrounded by people who know him well. He didn't tell anyone. He sat on it, which is either a sign that he genuinely hasn't decided or a sign that the decision is already made, and he's waiting for exactly the right moment to announce it. With LeBron, you can never fully tell which one it is." Then there was the Miami angle, a new angle, arriving fast. The Miami Heat may not be finished making moves after trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo, which could benefit the Los Angeles Lakers this summer. Bleacher Report's Eric Pincus had a hunch that the Lakers could soon get involved in a LeBron James-centered three-team deal with the Heat and Utah Jazz, Miami, and Giannis. LeBron potentially joining them. That's a conversation that makes the basketball world's head spin. But it's being had seriously, by serious people, using real numbers. Pincus's full trade proposal would send LeBron James, Bronny James, Bez and Beng, and a trade exception to the Miami Heat, Wiggins, Walker Kessler, and a trade exception to the Lakers, and DeAndre Ayton, Jared Vanderbilt, Jake LaRavia, Dalton Knecht, a 2031 first-round pick, and a 2033 first-round pick to the Jazz. Andrew Wiggins to the Lakers. That's the piece. The wing the Lakers have wanted. A proven shooter, a better-than-average defender, a professional who knows how to play alongside stars without needing the ball constantly. And LeBron reuniting with Heat culture in Miami, alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo. That particular story writes itself in about 15 different directions. Jake Fisher of Yahoo Sports noted, "It might even be more likely than not that he leaves Los Angeles than stays with the Lakers." More likely than not that he leaves. That's not a hot take from a fringe analyst. That's a credentialed NBA insider reading the signals and telling you what he sees. And what he sees is a man with options, a franchise in transition, and a window that isn't staying open forever. But here's the thing that makes the whole situation genuinely unpredictable. LeBron James doesn't always do what's logically optimal. He's made moves in his career that were personal, emotional, legacy-driven. The move to Cleveland in 2014 wasn't purely about winning. The move to Los Angeles wasn't purely about winning. There's always a human story underneath the business story. And right now, the human story involves a 41-year-old man who has played 23 years of professional basketball and is genuinely trying to figure out what he still wants, what matters, what's worth the grind, what kind of final chapter he wants to write. James said he plans to spend time with his family before deciding on his future. That's not a media line. That's a real thing. Because when you've been in the public eye at the level LeBron has been since he was 17 years old, when every decision you've ever made has been dissected by 1,000 voices, sometimes the most important conversations happen away from all of it. With your wife, with your kids, with the people who knew you before any of this. LeBron is 40, no longer the best player in the NBA, albeit still elite, and no longer capable of bending the league entirely to his will. And yet, there's still a hopeless fascination with what comes next, where he might land if and when he actually gets traded. And more to the point, what he actually wants right now. That last part, what does he actually want right now? Not in the public statements, not in the Rich Paul interviews, not in the carefully worded releases to Shams Charania. What does LeBron James, in a quiet room, actually want? With James entering free agency, time is seemingly running out for the four-time MVP to capture a fifth title. 5 titles. Michael Jordan has 6, and LeBron James, the man who has spent 2 decades in the conversation as the greatest basketball player who ever lived, has 4. There is unfinished business, there always is, with LeBron. And whatever decision he makes this summer, that unfinished business is somewhere in the room when he makes it. The Lakers, for their part, have to reconcile 2 things simultaneously. They made a promise to Luka Doncic. Summer 2026 was supposed to be when the franchise crossed the threshold from good to built to win it all. And now, in the actual summer of 2026, they're navigating a LeBron situation that nobody fully anticipated. Because nobody anticipated that he'd still be this good, this relevant, and this unwilling to simply ride off into the sunset. James will be an unrestricted free agent this summer, weighing whether to return to the Lakers, move to another franchise, or retire from the NBA after 23 years in the league. 23 years. Retirement is on the table. It has to be, because at 41, after everything, after the knee scares, after the back issues, after the mileage of more than 1,000 regular season games, and hundreds of playoff games, the body will have a say too. The mind might want to chase a 5th ring. The body might have a different conversation. The Lakers are likely to offer James a contract extension this offseason. Reports also claim that the Cavaliers, the Golden State Warriors, and the Miami Heat could emerge as potential suitors for his signature. 4 franchises, all with legitimate offers to make, all with compelling cases. The Lakers have loyalty, history, and Luka on their side. Cleveland has the homecoming story. Golden State has the legacy move angle. Steph and LeBron, one final run. Miami has Giannis and Pat Riley's fingerprints all over whatever they build. LeBron wants to compete for a championship. Paul said he knows the Lakers are building for the future. And then we do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. This is the sentence that started every conversation this summer. Evaluate what's best. Not LeBron is happy with the Lakers. Not we're staying. Evaluate present tense, ongoing, unresolved, and that ambiguity, that deliberate, sustained ambiguity, is where LeBron James has always been most powerful. Not in the proclamations, not in the decision or the finals MVP speeches or the championship celebrations. In the space between those moments where everyone is watching and waiting and speculating and the whole league holds its breath. That's where the real leverage lives. That's where you control the story. And LeBron James at 41, after a career that has redefined what's possible in this sport, is still controlling the story. Every team linked to him is making plans around him. Every front office is running numbers. Every fan base is imagining the jersey. And meanwhile, LeBron James is somewhere with his family, taking his time, letting the world wait. Because after 23 years of giving this league everything, the one thing nobody can take from him is the right to take his time. When he's ready to talk, he'll talk. And when he does, it'll be the only thing anyone talks about. The trade that sent Luka Doncic to Los Angeles, the one LeBron texted WTF about, didn't just bring a new star to the franchise. It set in motion a chain of events that are still unfolding right now. A promise to Luka, a reckoning with the cap, a season where LeBron proved once again that writing him off is something you do at your own risk. An off-season where his agent's words hit the market like a depth charge, and a summer where the answers are still, as of right now, genuinely unknown. You can call the Lakers' promise to Luka a lie, or you can just acknowledge that LA meant it in the moment. But circumstances have changed since then. Circumstances change because LeBron is still LeBron. That's the most remarkable sentence in this entire story. The circumstance that complicated a franchise's 5-year plan is the sustained excellence of a 41-year-old basketball player who refuses to cooperate with the concept of decline. So here we are, the summer of 2026, the one everyone was pointing toward. And instead of clean answers, we've got 5 potential LeBron destinations. A Lakers franchise caught between a promise and a legend. A 26-year-old superstar waiting to see if his franchise delivers, and an agent who says he doesn't even know what his own client is going to do, which in LeBron world means one thing. Whatever happens next is going to be must-watch television.